So I ask you, what matters to you? I don't know what matters to you. Those are some things that matter to me. Another thing that matters to me is the church has been deeply embedded in my life, in my soul, and my culture. I don't really know life without, I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what it would mean to live on the earth and not know something about the church or about Jesus. I've been in it so long, there would be such a void in my life to not know of the church. I can't help but say it probably matters as much as any other thing in my life is the Church of Jesus Christ, because I've seen great things come out of her. I've seen great things be produced by her and in her. And so she matters very much to me, and that mattering gives meaning to me. And part of that meaning is not just to provide for the ladies or provide for my son, but part of that meaning is to go and affect those in the Church of Jesus Christ so that they can be free and so they can be liberated, so the church can be the best version of herself on the planet, so that we can do something to mitigate the chaos that's going on in the world around us. Rather than coming in and sitting and talking about how bad the world is, maybe the church could be the agency of change in the world, and that we might be able to just look inside to the Spirit that's in us and how He would love our neighbor and how He would treat our enemy and what He might do in this world, keeping peripherals peripheral and bringing center that which is important, shoving out the stuff that doesn't matter and then focusing on the things that do. And maybe there we would find meaning. But whether you know your meaning or you know what matters to you today, the good news, the starting blocks of the good news is this: you mattered so much to God. And this is how I've started seeing Jesus. I think my journeys in the book of John are helping me with this, because there's that beginning where there's nothing and then there's something. And John, being a good Jew who studied his Torah, knows that in the beginning there was nothing and then there was something, but then he does something that had never been done before. He identifies it as Jesus. That Word became flesh and dwelt, and he uses the Hebrew word for tabernacle. Remember in the Old Testament when God tabernacled with His people? God said, build this tabernacle in the wilderness, put the Ark of the Covenant in the back of it, and I'll come down as a fire by day, a fire by night, a cloud by day. And when that is there, you'll know I'm there. And so they could see the presence of God hovering over the Ark of the Covenant. That's an amazing thing. That's the tabernacle. And then when the cloud would jump up and move, what were they supposed to do? Tear down the tabernacle and follow the cloud, right? When the fire moved, they tore down the tabernacle. It was really simple. Go where the fire is. Go where the cloud, go where the smoke is. And so follow the smoke, follow the fire. And that was Israel in the wilderness. Just follow that. John grabs that idea and he says, the Word became flesh and tabernacled amongst us. The King James, Old King James says dwelt. And we lose a bit of the Jewish connection because we get the word dwelt, and that's not a word we use anyway. But tabernacle, we see that in the Old Testament. So if Jesus is the Word become flesh and tabernacles among us, what's that mean? It means that Jesus takes up residence as a man. He becomes one of us. He shows us what God looks like. He tabernacles among God's people. And so I've started seeing Jesus as the very embodiment of the things that matter to God. Because what did we say? Whatever matters to you, your meaning will define the things that matter to you. So your meaning propels you forward. Your meaning puts your feet on the floor in the morning. Why do you do that? Because something matters. So what's your meaning in life? Well, it's this. That matters to me. Because that matters to me, I have meaning to go forward. I think you mattered so much to the heart of God that He wrapped Himself up in human flesh, tabernacled among you, because you give meaning to what matters to God. And so Jesus moved forward in the earth because you mattered. Jesus lets them arrest Him in Gethsemane because you matter. Jesus has them spit on His face and pluck the beard from His jaws and stripe His back because you matter. Because when something matters, you handle things. You put up with things because it matters to you. And when it doesn't matter to you, you don't put up with it at all. And if you ever need to know how much you matter, just watch Jesus, a man with legions of angels who can come at His beckoning call. A man who can come with the sword out of his mouth. A man who will have all power in heaven and earth given to him. And watch Him acquiesce to those who judge Him and who beat Him and who condemn Him. And then ask yourself if you matter. You matter to the heart of God. You matter so much that Jesus would endure anything Bible says he despised the shame. It tells me that the shame that was heaped upon him, the Bible says, was intended for us all. The embarrassment and the condemnation and the shame that went on Jesus went on us. And I think, would I ever do that for anybody? And the only people I can feel like I might do that for are those who matter the most to me in life. I would do that for these ladies. I would endure the shame and the embarrassment. I would endure the pain. I would endure the heartbreak and the heartache. And why would I do that? Because they matter and they give me meaning. So don't look at the cross as God beating the fire out of His Son. You've let the devil hijack the cross. Don't look at the cross as some murder. The cross is Jesus as a lamb lying Himself across the altar and saying, "You matter to me." The cross is the nails going into His hands and His feet and the spear into His side and the blood flowing and Him holding them hands out in front of those disciples on the resurrection night and saying, "Touch my hands." You mattered enough for this to happen. You mattered enough for this to happen. Just as Adam had Eve pulled out of his side, my Father pulled you out of my side where blood and water flowed, because you matter enough to recreate a man on the earth. You matter enough to put people into a garden of new creation. You drive me forward with meaning. Jesus is standing on a hillside trying to get a little bit of rest and to cry. I know sometimes we have a hard time imagining this. Jesus needed a good cry. I think so. He just found out that his cousin John the Baptist had his head cut off. Jesus has lost probably the greatest advocate in ministry that he had on the planet. The one man that understood him probably more than anybody else understood him. And even that man didn't understand him the way we would like for him to have understood him. But John the Baptist is gone, and they come and tell Jesus John has been killed, and the Bible says Jesus departs into a private place to go off and pray. Why is he going off to pray? He's not praying for John's soul. He just needs some time alone with Dad. That's what happens when you lose someone that you love. There's pain in his heart because he's human like you and I. The Bible says that when he gets on that hillside, people find out that he's there, and they come out by the thousands, and Jesus turns and sees them and is moved with compassion for them, and begins to heal their sick and touch their lives. And then he gets to the end of his sermon. He feeds the 5,000 with the boys' lunch, little fishes and loaves of bread. Did you know that that story comes on the backside of Jesus weeping over the death of his own cousin? You know what that tells me? The people mattered to Jesus. They mattered so much that a man in the middle of his own grief, I don't even understand that kind of love. I'll be honest with you. I don't understand the kind of love where the person closest to me dies, and I still have compassion on you to perform a miracle and pour my heart out for you. You must matter so much to the heart of the Father